Manifestation Pod. We are Louise and Sam, two ordinary mums living extraordinary lives through friendship, self-improvement, manifestation, the law of attraction, and a little bit of the magic. We look forward to you joining us on our fortnightly podcast. Good morning. This is Sam and Louise. We're on the Manifestation Podcast. It is a Sunday morning. It's 10:19 and we've not been awake long. So this could be a very fun podcast. How are you, Sam?
I'm good. I'm feeling a bit blurry-eyed from an exciting day out with the kids yesterday. But yeah, I'm good. Good to be here. Episode 9. Whoop, whoop.
Whoa, episode. I'm glad you keep track of the episode numbers because I wouldn't have had a clue about that. But yeah, episode 9. And today's episode is about money blocks. But first, should we do a little bit of a catch up, a little bit of what's been going on this week?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. First week of the school holidays here. Same for you, first full week.
No, one day. She only finished on Thursday. So we get an extra week in June, I think. So she only had 5 weeks in the summer. So yeah, finished on Thursday. And yeah, so it's not really kicked in yet, summer for us next week.
So yeah, we've just done first full week and it's been hectic but fun and good and actually very topical on money blocks. So I won't go into it too much now because we can talk about it in the episode, but I always find that summer holidays can be a bit like, how am I going to have enough money for everything we want to do? And because we've been talking about money blocks last episode, I've been working on it since. So I feel very differently about it so far. So we were at Alton Towers swimming yesterday, and I think this came up in money blocks. I don't know if it came over in the episode, but there's a theme with the Alton Towers swimming and money blocks and me that I'll go into, which has definitely changed. So yeah, that was nice. We've had a good fun week. So actually looking forward to the rest of the holidays at this point in time. How about you? How's your week been?
My week has been absolutely bonkers, which also involves money blocks. So I'll talk about it in detail during the episode rather than the catch up, because otherwise it's going to be the longest catch up ever. But yeah, it's been a very, very odd, interesting, bonkers week. But I did some work on money blocks after our last podcast. I've been listening to Get Rich Lucky Bitch by Denise Duffield Thomas on Audible. And because of the coaching that I do as well, I've just been thinking a lot about money. And then the week I've had, which all will become clear, I've completely changed. Well, I've not completely changed the way I think about money, but I found it to be a lot easier this week because of the work I've done. So I'll talk about that in a bit more detail during the episode. But yeah, it's been a very, very interesting week. And some would find it quite a stressful week, but I am very good at dealing with the big stuff in life, not so much the little stuff. So something goes wrong in my life that's huge, I'm fine. If I get up in the morning and I can't find my glasses, you meltdown. Can't cope with that. But the big stuff I can. So yeah, it's been a very challenging week, but a good week. And I'm quite proud of myself to have come through the week. Yeah, in a good place.
Brilliant. Well, I am too excited to hear about what's happened with your money blocks because you've not even told me yet. So please.
I haven't. We've not spoke, have we? So let's talk about money blocks. So I've been working with clients, as you know, helping them with their finances and helping them unblock money. And it kind of occurred to me that I've not done that much work on my own money blocks because I think I'm probably perfect and I haven't got any. But I actually have. So I've done some work from reading Get Rich Lucky Bitch, and it's all about how you feel in certain situations about money. And sometimes, and I'll try and think of the example, but sometimes with money, you feel a certain way. So sometimes you pay for something and you feel completely happy with it. And other times you pay for things and you're like, oh, I feel a bit sick about this. It just doesn't feel right in your gut. So I've really done some work about what is it that I'm not happy about in this situation. And So, two little examples. Tipping people
Mm.
makes me feel uncomfortable. I hate tipping people.
Yeah.
And I think it's because I'm a little bit of a control freak with money. If I went for a meal and it was, I don't know, for example, £100,
Mm.
and they added on a £20 service charge, I'd be absolutely fine with that. I'd just pay it because I'd have no choice in it. But paying £100 for food and then tipping £20, I feel really uncomfortable with. And I
Mm.
can't quite work out why, but I know I do. And I think it's about not having control over my money. So if a meal's 120, I know that I'm paying 120 and that's absolutely fine. If a meal's 100 and then suddenly I've got to find the £20 tip, I'm like, oh, I feel really uncomfortable doing that. So I've done a lot of work about feelings about money and I'm actually
Mm.
writing down when I feel very uncomfortable. And I've also discovered that historically, I like to pay bills late because I have this thing about I want it in my bank account longer than it should be in their bank account. But
Mm.
actually, all that happens with that is I pay bills late and then it becomes something on my things to do list. So
Mm.
actually, I've switched that round so as soon as I get a bill, I pay it.
Yeah.
I've got to pay it at some point. Bank interest rates are rubbish. I'm not going to make that much interest on £14 for a, I don't know, whatever it is. So I'm just paying stuff straight away, and that's having a really good effect on like my life admin because I've got less to do. So I've had all that going on in the background. I've really been thinking deep and hard about money and what I'm comfortable paying and what I'm not.
Mm.
And along with some of the clients that I've had, we've done work on money blocks, but I decided to do some work on my own money blocks and also to sort my own finances out. So my finances are in pretty good shape, as they should be, because I help people with theirs. But disposable income,
Mm.
like the rest of the world, I'm never entirely sure where it goes. So you've got X amount of money, you pay X amount in bills, you've got X amount left, and most of us go, that's mine, I can do what I want with it. But actually, there's a lot of things that you need to pay out of that. You need to save up for holidays, you need to save up for summer holidays, you need to have money for whatever you need for that week. So a couple of weeks ago, I sat down, changed bank accounts as well, which kind of was the catalyst for this. And I went through, I've now got 12 bank accounts, which I know by anyone's standard is absolutely bloody ridiculous, but that's where we are. So I've got like pots for different bank accounts. So I've sorted it all out. So I've got an emergency fund, I've got for emergencies, I've got a buffer zone for kind of things that crop up that it's not a load of money, but I'm not expecting it. So I've got like a mini emergency pot. I've got a holiday fund and I've got, I can't remember what else. Oh, I've got a house fund for things for the house.
Mm.
And then I've got a long term savings for things that I don't even know about yet, but I just feel safer with it. So I sorted all this out. So this week, what a hilarious start to the week. On Friday morning last week, Charlotte came in my bedroom and said, Mummy, I've got drips on my head. So I went in the bedroom and the ceiling was dripping. So I was like, okay, it's fine. It's rained like ridiculously the last few days. We just moved into this house where I knew there needed to be a little bit of work on the roof, but I was like, it's absolutely fine. So I checked my insurance policy, which had expired a week before. I did have a new policy in place, but I switched and you can't claim on your insurance for the first 14 days. So I was like, all right, okay, so I'm not insured for this trip. So that was that. So I thought I'll just see how it goes. I'll ring a roofer. It was a tiny drip. There was nothing was coming down. Um, so I rang a roofer guy who I know who did some work on my old house. He said he'd come out on Monday. That was Friday morning. Saturday morning, I got up, the bathroom, walked in the bathroom, nearly broke my neck. I've got a tiled floor, water all over the floor. So I looked up, so the bathroom ceiling's dripping at this point. So I rang the roof and I said, I know it's Saturday. Any chance you can come round? The roof's leaking in the bathroom. So he was like, yeah, I'll try and come out Sunday. I can't come today. I'll try and come Sunday morning. If not, definitely Monday. Um, so then Sunday morning, I got up and my room started dripping. So now I'm thinking, oh my God, the whole house is leaking. So I've got saucepans everywhere. Charlotte can't sleep because of the noise of them dripping in the saucepans because it's just not conducive to helping your child sleep. So she's in bed with me Sunday night. Anyway, the roofer came out on Monday and did that noise that builders make where they go, oh, and he just said, your roof has had it, you need a new roof. He said, your roof, the wood on the roof, don't have a name for it, is like Weetabix. And he pulled a bit down to show me it literally crumbled. So I needed a new roof, basically. So I said to him, how much is it going to cost? He said, I'll do some calculations, I'll come back to you. So he came back to me and he said, all we know, it's going to be 4,400. But instead of doing the sharp intake of breath and feeling ill, I thought, I've got funds for this. I've got a little account called House Funds. I knew at some point I'd need a new roof.
Yeah.
And I wasn't expecting it now, but it's happened now. I've got a builder who's really good. He's saying you can do it this week. The forecast, honest to God, if you check the weather forecast this week, it's just horrific. It's rain for like the next fortnight. So he came and did it. And I went and drew the money out. And honestly, I feel absolutely fine about it because that's what that pot of money is for. And I think before, if all my savings were in one pot, as they were not that long ago, a couple of months ago, I would have been like, oh my God, that's coming out of my savings are dwindling, I've not got as much money. I would have felt really like uncomfortable about it and unhappy about it. But honestly, all I keep thinking is I'm going into winter with this brand new spanking roof. Yeah. It can rain as much as it wants, it can snow, we could have a gale. My house is going to be absolutely fine. I feel like that pig in the brick house, nothing's going to happen. So then he came and did that. And as he was in my bedroom, well, he was outside, the house is covered in scaffold, it's like a building site. There was all dirt on the inside of my bedroom. And when I've looked up at the windows, you can see daylight through the windows. So my bedroom window is not really attached properly. So I spoke to him about that and he said it's not been put in properly. And then again, this came up on the survey that I need new windows and doors. So long story short, in the next 2 weeks, I'm having all new windows and doors put in. And again, he's not told me how much that's going to cost yet. But I'm feeling fine about it. I'm like, oh, the house is going to look lovely on the outside, not so much on the inside, because, the kitchen is not going to get done this side of Christmas now. But yeah, it's just, I feel fine about it. And these are not things like a roof. It's not sexy, is it? It's not like getting a new kitchen or a new bathroom where you can see yourself lying in luxury or cooking in this beautiful space. It's a bloody roof.
Yeah, but it's the kind of cost and thing that happens to your house that normally most of us would be pretty scared of because it's such a big cost, isn't it?
It is.
But weigh that against dripping in every room. God, I mean, you'd do anything to get it fixed, wouldn't you?
Absolutely, yeah. And even when it was dripping, I wasn't that, because I just kept thinking, well, I knew the roof was an issue and it's obviously happening now sooner than I thought. But I was fine with it, honestly. In the old house, I'd have had an absolute breakdown if this had happened. But in this house, I just feel so differently about things. I think maybe because I knew it was happening. And what's really weird as well, and this is definitely law of attraction going on here. So the kitchen, I am getting a new kitchen and I was going to have it done like nowish. But then I decided, and I don't know why, again, I'm really following my gut instinct at the moment in everything in life. When something feels a bit wrong, I just don't do it. So the kitchen, I've picked the kitchen, I know what I want, I'm happy with it, I'm happy with the price, I'm happy with everything. But when it came to like saying, yeah, I'll pay it and we'll book a date in, I was just like, I'm not feeling comfortable about this. So I thought, right, we'll shelve it for a while until I figure out what's going on in my head. And then Charlotte's bedroom, I decided to do first because she's not happy in the house, but she didn't want to move. And I feel like we should do her room first. But it needs plastering. So Henry, Charlotte's dad, is going to come and plaster it for her. And then obviously we'll decorate it and whatever. And she needs all new furniture. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to do her bedroom. And then that will take us to, say, Christmas. And then next year, fresh year, we'll get the kitchen done. So that was in my head. That was fine. Her bedroom not going to cost that much money in the great scheme of things. But when it came to getting Henry to plaster it again, I was just like, I'm not sure this is the right time. So I don't know if I've spoke about this on the pod, but the cat um, fell out of the bedroom window and broke his femur. Um, which, I mean, that was a huge vet's bill as well. And I'm not even bothered about that. That's come out of the emergency fund anyway. But because the cat was in a cage and he had, well, it was stitched up, but it was like an open wound, if you like. I just thought, house full of dust and plaster, it's not good at the moment. He can't go to the toilet properly, the cat, so he's creating more mess. It honestly, like having a newborn baby. And I just thought, my head can't take any more. I can't have someone in the house doing building work while the cat is taking up like loads of extra time. So I said to Henry, let's just shelve it for a bit. And he was like, yeah, that's fine. I said, it'll only be a few weeks. Anyway, the cat's out again now, playing out. The cat's absolutely fine. But I think, God, if Henry had been, well, one, if he'd have done her bedroom, it'd have had to been done again because he would have plastered the ceiling. That ceiling is the ceiling that hers is the worst one. I mean, it's not damaged as such, but if it had had brand new plaster on it, honestly, I would have cried. Sorry, got a slight cough. So yeah, I do think everything happens for a reason. And if the kitchen, her bedroom, I wouldn't have been as comfortable about having a new roof as well because it would have felt like everything was happening at once. It was just a bit too much and a little bit snowballing out of my control.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It just shows like how important it is to listen to your gut, doesn't it? And like go with that flow instead of forcing these things. If you'd like forced yourself to order the kitchen and start paying for that, and then the roof happened as well,
like
just
exactly, yeah. And as well, ironically, the guy that was going to fit my kitchen was the same guy. He's a builder who's going to do the roof as well. So that would have, I mean, just that itself, it would have meant that potentially I'd been living with no kitchen for longer than I needed to. It would have been an absolute nightmare. And we're going on holiday on Saturday, so I kind of needed the roof doing quickly before we went away. I didn't want it doing while we weren't here. Yeah, it's just weird how things happen.
Yeah, exactly as they're supposed to, if you let them.
Exactly. And I think it is all about following your gut instincts. And so often I don't because I think, no, I've got a plan. This is the plan. I need to execute it. And, to hell with my gut instinct. But this time, I mean, not even this time, this year, I've really, really been listening to it. And when something doesn't feel right, and I've got a friend, Sarah, who she's very like me. She's very like, 100 miles an hour getting jobs done. And she, every time I speak to her, she's like, have you sorted Charlotte's room out yet? Have you sorted the kitchen out? She's on holiday at the moment, so she doesn't know anything about what's happened this week. But I said no. And she was like, why have you not done it? You said you wanted to really crack on and do stuff. And I was like, I know, but I just feel like I should wait. And she was like, really? Well, what are you waiting for? She's like my mum sometimes, honestly, love her. I can say what I want about Sarah on this podcast because I said to her, have you listened to our pod? She said, yeah, it's not for me. Bless her. So I just want to talk about her freely. She's a good friend. I love her to bits. But yeah, she was like, why are you not getting it done? Why are you not getting it done? And I know the first thing she asks when she comes back on holiday, I'm seeing her on Wednesday, will be, oh, have you started on Charlotte's room? And when I tell her, she'll be like, oh my God. But yeah. So yeah, money blocks, they are literally all in your mind. So my finances haven't increased. I've got the same amount of money that I had 2 months ago, but because I've just kind of separated it in my mind for different things, I feel quite like content about how things have panned out. And the other interesting thing is, and I really need to sit and think about this, and I don't know if I've said on this pod, but I'm writing a book. I definitely need to get this down on paper and kind of articulate it so it's fully understood so that I understand it and other people understand it. But the other thing is as well, when something like that happens, usually my first thought would have been before. So we've got, honestly, 4 holidays booked for the summer. Don't even ask. It's just come at family visiting, 3 holidays with family. So it's been out of my control when it is. And I wouldn't ordinarily have 4 holidays on the bounce. 3 are on 3 consecutive weekends. That I'm not comfortable with that particularly, but we are where we are with it. But I think if this had have happened 2 months ago, my first thought would have been, I can't go on holiday. I can't have 4 holidays. Who do I think I am? I've just paid all this out. But because I've got a holiday fund, and the money for the holidays is coming out of that, it's literally not affected me at all having this work done. And it would have done before, but on paper, my situation is still the same as it would have been if all my savings were in one place. It's
Yeah.
all in the mind. It's all about, and we know money blocks are in the mind, but I think until I've had this very obvious example of how this has worked for me this week, it's like a light bulb's gone off. And I'm so shocked at that because I do think, and it just proves you don't know everything, but I am a bit of a money expert. And I'm not at all, because this is like new to me this week, this whole feeling of it doesn't matter. I really feel that, I know we talk about money flowing in and out of your life, and I've always like believed that, but this week I just feel like it proves it comes in and out.
It's so interesting, isn't it? Because I wouldn't have thought you would have had any money blocks. You know, when we talk about like the abundance and stuff before, but it just shows how deeply emotional money is and how
Absolutely.
it's so emotional. You know, even when you're completely on top of your finances, there's still some emotions that are
Of
really
course.
unconscious and you've really got to think about and uncover.
Yeah. And what's interesting is some of my money blocks is not about spending huge amounts of, well, if I'm sure most people, if they got a bill for 4,400 for a new roof that week, would not feel comfortable about it. I think that's perfectly natural. But my money blocks are not about big things. My money blocks are about the small things. It's really odd.
Mm.
Like tipping people £20 makes me feel uncomfortable. But if that was added to the bill, I'd be fine with it. And I've tried to dig about why I feel like that. And I honestly don't know. I think with me, I think everything with me comes down to control. I am a massive control freak when it comes to my life and money and things like that. And I think tipping, it's not something that's in your control. You don't know exactly how much you're going to spend. You don't know how much the tip is going to be. But it's just weird that it's not about affordability. It's
Mm.
about feeling uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like you said about Alton Towers the first time when we had the conversation, I can't remember if we had it on or off the pod, but you felt uncomfortable about paying a certain amount for food and you interpreted that as lack, that
Yeah.
you couldn't afford it. And it wasn't that you couldn't afford it, it's that you didn't want to afford it because it was a complete rip-off.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it's all about your perception of it, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, perception, it all comes back to that. It's
Yeah,
all about perception.
it definitely is. It 100% is. And I think that control thing, like that, control must be your sense of safety, and control has kept you safe. And that's,
Oh, absolutely.
you know, a big, big thing.
Yeah, if you wanted to unpick that scab,
Yeah,
that goes right back to childhood, and a lack of control. And as an adult, I mean, I made a conscious decision when I was probably 16 that
yeah,
nobody would ever control me and I would always control my life. I mean, I think I took it a little bit too far, whereas I do need to let go sometimes.
mm,
And I'm kind of finding that as I get older. But having Charlotte as well, I'm definitely more of a control freak now because what I do affects her. And the thought of, I spoke before in a pod about when I was poor, for want of a better word, when my
mm,
marriage broke down and I was really in the shit. There's no other words to describe it financially.
yeah,
It was hard and I got out of it, but I couldn't go through that with a child.
mm,
I couldn't, you can't expect your kids to live on beans on toast because, and I know people do, but I don't know. I couldn't do that with her ever. So I think I'm definitely more of a control freak with money now because I
mm,
never want her to feel like she's got to suffer because of, you know, ultimately choices I've made. Because
mm,
even that with the, I don't know, there's a certain amount of guilt about being poor because I feel like I brought it on myself because I married an idiot. And you can blame other people as much as you like, but I made that choice to marry that person. Um, and I should have very much listened to my gut instinct then, but I didn't. So yeah,
yeah,
I think if I unpick that scab, I could definitely go back in time and work out exactly why I am a control freak. But to be honest, I'm quite fine with being a control freak.
mm,
It's who I am. I am very controlled about things and making decisions, especially money. But
yeah.
yeah,
Do you find that your intuition is getting louder now
Oh
that
my
you're listening
God,
to it? Like, oh, that.
honestly. Yeah, but sometimes, I don't know whether you're the same, but I can lie in bed, I can be thinking about something. And if I think about something that either I'm worried about or it doesn't sit right with me, I feel ill, like physically ill. And I think, oh, I recognise it now, I like acknowledge it and go, that made me feel awful. And I think about why did it, and there's usually a reason like I feel uncomfortable about it, and I can unravel it until I feel like say if it was a bill that I wasn't happy about, for example, I would
Mm,
feel really ill about that. If it was something that I deemed that was a waste of money or I didn't want to pay, but then I just go, Louise, you've got to pay it. You've got to just pay it. And what I've learned is things like that, pay them as quickly as possible. Bloody well forget about them.
yeah, exactly. Almost like make
Really,
them automatic so you don't even have to think about
yeah,
them.
make it go away. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't really have any regular bills that I feel like that about, but sometimes things will come up.
Mm,
And yeah, I think, oh God, I feel really uncomfortable about paying that. But
yeah.
yeah, pay it quickly and move on with your life. Whereas before, I would have tried not to pay it and really thought about it and put lots of energy into it. And then when it ultimately came to paying it, I'd have been like, oh, I feel even worse about that. And I've spent 2 months thinking it over because I've spent 2 months trying not to pay it. Just pay it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's the best way, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I find with my intuition, because I've been working on listening to it for a couple of years, since I left that horrible job, really, that now it's like really loud sometimes, like the things that I'm really uncomfortable with. Like I'll literally wake up in the morning and like my inner voice will be like, you can't do that. Like you really, really can't do that. Don't do it. Like there was somewhere one of the kids were going a few weeks ago, and I woke up and my like intuition was literally like, they can't go there. Like they really can't go there. Don't let them go. And
Really?
yeah, yeah. And I fought with it all morning. I was just like, oh, it's just like a bad dream I woke up from or something like that. Um, but it just kept was there, and so I just followed it. And I said it to Carl. I was like, I know this sounds really mad, but something's just really telling me that like Iris can't go there. And he was like, well, you've got to listen to it, haven't you? So yeah, I didn't let her go, and I explained it to her as well. And I was like, I know this. I've never really said this to you before, and everything, but I just really feel like you shouldn't. And she was dead accepting of it, to be fair, which was really good. But
Wow.
yeah, I just think it's so important to follow your intuition. And I still don't really know why she shouldn't have. I thought it would become really clear at the time, but it wasn't. But I think the more you listen to it, the more it becomes clear, and you continue making those decisions that you're comfortable with, that don't make you feel ill, that you feel good about, and that is like really, really positive for your whole life.
It's don't you find though it's hard sometimes because sometimes you're following a path that's very clear in your mind and you think this is what I want to do, and then you get that feeling, and you know that you shouldn't do it, but sometimes I'm like, but I want to do it, and then this little
Yeah.
voice inside is going, but you know you shouldn't.
Mm,
I'm trying to think of an example. I can't think of one on the top of my head, and it's things. It's not bad things. It's not things like I don't know that you know you shouldn't do that are bad for you. It could be something like, I don't know, a course or a job or whatever,
yeah.
or a client. I've had a situation with a client where I thought, I don't feel like I should work with this person. Um, and it's come from nowhere. But yeah, but sometimes it's hard to listen to that and hard to
It's,
follow it because you're kind of fighting some internal battle.
mm,
Um, yeah.
yeah, that does still happen, definitely. I just override it so much less than I ever used to. But I still definitely have that battle. But my like listening to it is part of, I guess, like surrendering to that higher power and that higher consciousness. And that's like a whole big thing to do, which is really, really hard. But part of like my spiritual path is like letting go and surrendering to what's the highest good for me.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a constant work in progress, but it's interesting.
Yeah. I feel like that, and I feel this year for me has snowballed. I wanted to move house, I've moved house. I feel like everything's gone my way. And I feel like this house, so we've only lived here, what date are we on? July? April the 28th we moved in. So May, 3 months almost to the day that we moved in. And in that time, the cat fell out of the window and broke his femur. That was expensive. And I don't know what lesson that was teaching me because I always think, things happen for a reason. I'm not sure what lesson. Well, actually, the cat has been a lot more affectionate towards me since he's broke his leg. I don't know why. Maybe because I was the one taking him to the vets and sorting him out. He's definitely been more affectionate. So that's quite nice. I'll take that. I'm wishing that affection didn't cost me 2.5 grand, but we are where we are. Bless him. And then I've not even told you this, but one of our sewage pipe collapsed outside
Oh gosh.
3 weeks ago. Honestly, yeah. The insurance paid for that. So I had United Utilities out to fit a water meter. The guy dug a hole, came, got me, went, look down there, and all I could see was toilet roll and poo. So the sewage pipe had collapsed so not the mains, my own one, underground. So that had just happened. Anyway, the insurance paid it out. It was fine. And then the roof leaked. And then he's told me now that the windows need, well, he didn't tell me the windows needed replacing. There's just an issue with one window, but I know they all need replacing. And they've all got a few gaps in them, and it's quite chilly. We've not had a winter here yet. So there's that. And I feel like part of me's thinking, oh my good God, everything's going wrong since I moved into this house. But and the neighbours have said to me a couple of times, like, oh, can anything else go wrong for you? And I'm thinking, well, you're seeing it as going wrong, but I'm seeing it as I could have had a lovely new kitchen by now. But actually, the shell of this house needs fixing. We need a new roof, we need new windows. And they're really important things to make you feel safe and secure and cozy. And all right, I'm not going to get a new kitchen probably this year now, but excuse me, it doesn't matter in the great scheme of things. Maybe this was the order that things had to be done. And maybe because I was going against that order, things had to happen for me to do that
Yeah.
and make those choices because I wasn't making them on my own. A new roof was never on the cards this year or next year.
Yeah, exactly. And if you think like if we hadn't had the rain we'd had the last couple of weeks, you probably would have been in winter before that rain had tested it.
Yeah,
But now by winter you're gonna have like a fully insulated, like cozy
exactly.
house. So
Yeah,
it's like
exactly.
yeah,
And
it
in winter as well, because it snows, if there'd have been like a really big snowfall, snow's heavy,
yeah,
the whole roof could have gone in. Like literally, Charlotte could have had snow on her. There was
yeah.
only a little in her room, but imagine how frightening that would be as a child if the ceiling fell in on you.
Oh
So
god.
yeah, I do think everything happens for a reason. It's feeling quite like that. So yeah, I do think sometimes if you don't listen, well,
Yeah.
it wasn't even intuition really, because I was just thinking the kitchen and I was like, no, her room, and then no, I was procrastinating. So it wasn't I suppose it was a little bit of intuition, but I think sometimes if intuition doesn't come into it, I think the universe just makes things happen
Yeah.
to push you to do things. I had no choice with the roof. It was completely, that was out of my control. But I was like, well, I've got the money for it. I knew it was going to happen sooner rather than later. It's happened sooner.
Yeah.
And maybe as well, it was better getting that done because oh my God, having a new roof put on, the noise, banging. There's a few cracks in some of the walls now, so maybe it's a good job that was done first
Yeah.
before I started having Henry, because Henry's going to have to replaster the entire house at some point. And maybe it was good that that's not happened first because that might have
Yeah.
needed redoing. So
Yeah. Yeah, it all works out as it should, really, shouldn't it? And like you say, if you don't do it yourself, then you will eventually be forced into doing the things that are right. Like I totally believe that. I always think with like the last time we moved house, like our landlord gave us notice on that last
yeah,
house. It was like a real shock. It was a horrible time. But
it was Christmas as well, wasn't it?
yeah, it was like New Year. It happened.
Yeah, I
And
remember.
I would never have asked for it, but it was forced on us, and we moved. And the house that we moved to, like I got this, this office that I'm sat in now, like this outdoor room that had been on my manifestation list for ages, as opposed to a desk in the corner of my bedroom, and loads of other little things that came with this house that I'd been manifesting. So it didn't come in the way that I wanted it to, or the way that I thought it would, but it never does. But it's always what you want and need anyway.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
that's so true.
yeah.
It doesn't come in the way that you would expect it, or sometimes the most straightforward way. But everything does, come good in the end, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. So on my
I
money
feel like that.
blocks, sorry,
Sorry, go on.
I'm just going to say on my money blocks, since the last pod, because we started touching on some of my money blocks, didn't we, at the end of the last
Yeah.
pod? So I thought, right, I'm not going to sit on this, I'm going to work on it. So I started doing some EFT, the tapping.
Yeah.
To release, so emotional freedom techniques. It's like a tapping techniques, working on the energy meridians, I think, in your body to move things around. But as you say it, as you do it, you tap parts of your body. I'll link to something for people to check this out. You talk about like emotionally difficult things and just sort of release the emotions around it. So I did a bit of EFT about that, those feelings that were coming up about that house by the sea that we talked about. So that was really good. That felt good to do that. And then I definitely shifted something because I started working on the conscious spending plan. This Ramit Sethi that I've mentioned to you. He's got the Netflix series,
Yeah.
Get Rich. And I've had that conscious spending plan around and been trying to do it for months. And I was like, I'm just going to do it. So I did his conscious spending plan and I did a budget alongside it. And I think I texted you because when I got to the end of the budget, I was like, I've got so much more money than I realised. And I really was not feeling like I had any spare money at all. But I found, a chunk of money that is just being frittered away unconsciously. So that was really good because then I could plan out the school holidays and the next month of, right, well, here's what I really want to do. Here's what like a rich summer looks like to me. These are the days out. These are the things I want to do, the places I want to go. So when I had that budget with like, right, I've set aside like Alton Towers yesterday, set aside £75 to go to Alton Towers because that's how much it costs to kind of get in. And loads of little things like that in the budget. Since then, it's become like a little game of like, did I spend that much? Did I not spend that much? Did I spend more than that? And which pot can I take that little bit out of to make up for the fact that I've spent more than that? And there's been some unexpected costs in the first week of the holidays of, just Iris went to see a theatre show with my mum and dad, and then me and George were in Stockport, so we ended up eating out that we'd not planned. But I've just moved that out of another budget that I don't have to do the rest of the month. And it just
really good.
Yeah, I just felt this real like weight had lifted. It just and they always say, don't they, like make it a game, make it fun, make money like less serious. I have never ever got it, never, up until this point where I'm like, ooh, like this is quite fun. And so I've not increased my income in any way. I've not even reduced my outgoings because my fixed costs are still what they are. But the fact that I know what I've got, where it's going, and I've got a conscious spending plan, so I'm consciously thinking about how I want to spend my money, is making such a huge difference in my mindset.
It does. That's such a breakthrough, Sam. That's amazing. Because I think me and you are very different when it comes to money. I was quite there anyway, but for you to get to the point you're at now, and it is fun, and it's not. I always say to people, like, budgeting isn't boring at all because you can move from one pot to another, and it does make you go, actually, do I really need that McDonald's, or do I really need, if I make sandwiches instead of eating out today, I can actually do this and move that back to a different pot, and it just gives you more choice, and it makes you really question what is important, and is it important to, and everyone's different, everyone has different priorities. Like sometimes a coffee in a coffee shop will be a real treat for me. What I will not do under any circumstances when I'm in a rush, buy coffee on the go because I'm in a rush, because I'm not enjoying it, I'm not savouring it. And if I'm spending £4 on a coffee, believe you me, I want to enjoy it and I want to savour it. So that's really good that you're at that point and you can move money around and then you can have a day out with the kids. You've got money for it and you're not feeling guilty about it or going, oh, I can't afford this. And it does come back to control because you are now in control of your finances. You know exactly where you're up to. And that you said, it feels like a weight's lifted and a relief. Every client I work with feels like that because a lot of the problems with money and the perceptions is the fact you don't know. You don't know where you're up to at any given point with money. And once you start knowing that and knowing that you're all right, and even when you're feeling like poor, it's in a fun way. So this week I do a food shop on a Sunday morning. I've got £15 for the food shop for this week. And Matthew, I said to Matthew last night, we went to Morrison's to buy something, and I said to him, I've got 15 quid for food tomorrow, that's ridiculous. And he went, why don't you just get it out of your savings account? And I said, this is the difference between me and you. I am not using my hard-earned savings for food, for a bloody food shop, which is, it's this week. We're going on holiday on Saturday. It's a school holiday. Charlotte's not with me that much. I thought I'll manage. I'll make a one pot. I'll do something. It'll be fine. And then I remembered that I've been to the opticians last week. I get it free from work, so I've got £35 that's coming back to me. And honestly, when I realised this, I was like, oh, I've got £50. That's loads. But then I was like, do you know what? I'm still going to spend 15 on food, and I'm going to keep that 35 because I might be able to, when we're on holiday, like £35 to say to Charlotte, let's go and buy you something. That's a load of money for that. So it is all a game.
Yeah, it is. And I hope I can stay in that mindset. So the Alton Towers thing, I think, is a really good example of it because, that was like early June. I think I went the first time.
Yeah.
And it was just me and Iris, so it was cheaper. But I was in a mindset then of like, I felt like I couldn't afford to be there, but I really wanted to be there. So I booked the tickets. And then when I got there, everyone else there was like there for the weekend. They'd been to the park already, and then they were staying in the hotel and having dinner in the hotel. And my mindset was just like, I can't afford to like be here. Like, how am I here? I felt like a fraud almost. But I mean, I had the best day with Iris, but those were like my internal thoughts around it. And I think we tried to get food and it was too expensive, and then I felt, even poorer. And so, it was just like not the best experience. And then the kids are desperate to go again, so we went again yesterday. But the difference being is I planned ahead that budget. I knew they were desperate to go, so I knew 3 weeks ago on payday that this was coming, and I was kind of ready, much more ready for it. So there was a big difference in my feelings around it. And, we got there, we had a great day. We ended up spending money on food, which, again, I hadn't planned for. But I had enough leeway in my other budgets to pay for it.
Oh, you're back. You froze then completely.
Oh, no. Oh.
We're raw. It's fine. We can just stay with it.
Sorry, Podders. Sorry. Yeah, so the upshot of that was went to Alton Towers yesterday. I'd planned the budget for it, so I was feeling much freer about it. We had some unexpected spends when we were there. We ended up buying food, which I've not accounted for, but it can come from another budget. And I was right about my first assessment of the food. It's not worth spending money on food there, so I will bring food with me next time for sure. But the freedom to be able to do it and not worry about it. And then I even had to get £10 out to get a 20p piece for the blooming locker, which is just ridiculous, isn't it? But I felt the freedom after that to give the remainder of that £10 to the kids for the arcade. And that's, unexpected budget. But as they were on the arcade and that, I actually sat there and did caught up on my budget, and I was like, that's £10. Like, it's nothing. You can find it out of this pot. And Yeah, it was really liberating. So I think I put on Instagram, didn't I, for the pod that like I was literally sat there in a completely different mindset of like I'm on a tropical island, take me to a tropical island, visualizing a tropical island. So really enjoying the day, but also visualizing, what I would do if I was on a tropical island with the kids and what that would look like. I'm like, this would be the time where I'd go and get a cocktail and sit on a sun lounger and read a book because they've had enough of me and they're doing their own thing. And it was just such a different experience. So I really need to bottle this last 3 weeks of money mindset and keep it going because it's a significant shift for me, I think.
It is. That's amazing. And what's interesting as well about that, so the first time you went there, what you said about feeling poor and that you couldn't afford there to be there for the weekend, like straight away when you said people were staying there for the weekend, the first thing I thought was, well, they probably got to because they probably live far away.
Yeah.
I bet there'd have been no one within a 20-mile radius who would have stayed there for the weekend with the kids. They'll have just lived further away. And that's probably their holiday.
Mm.
You have got the advantage of living within driving distance of Alton Towers. It's like people in, Surrey, you can get to Fort Park really easily. It's just a day out to you. How lucky are you that's on your doorstep and you don't have to pay? Because the other thing is as well, if it's that expensive for a weekend and they're staying in the hotel and you've said the food's really expensive, they're probably never going to do that again. That's probably a one-off for their kids. And it's just interesting that your initial perception is that you're the poor one, you're the unlucky one, and actually you're not. You're the lucky one. You can go there whenever you want because it's relatively cheap. You could take a packed lunch. You can take the kids. You've only got to pay for entry. If you wanted to be really frugal about it, because this is what I do. I have experiences with Charlotte, and there's one thing that I definitely won't pay for, and it's any place like that. I'm sorry, I've never found anywhere that sells decent food for your children.
Yeah, it doesn't.
They rip you off. It's dead expensive. It's shit food.
Yeah.
So if that means that we have a packed lunch, we have a packed lunch. I don't care. But it probably means with all those packed lunches that we can get, a couple more adventures per year than people that pay for food there. It's all relative and it's all what's important to you. But I just find it interesting that your negative perception of yourself and your situation, actually, if you met a couple there and spoke to people that were there for the weekend, I bet, they'd have saved for that. It would have been a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. It's why you should never like compare or like think about anyone else, really, is it? It's exactly why you shouldn't. And I do spend most of my life not doing that, but I don't know, at that point in time, that's where I was. So it's really nice to have turned that round.
And there's probably people there as well that have used credit to get there that they probably can't actually afford, but they've done it for the children. And yeah, you shouldn't compare because there'll be a lot of people with a lot of, and you'll get people where it's easily affordable for them. They can have a weekend there without, batting an eyelid. But that's the world, isn't it? But from what you said, it was like everybody else was on this higher elevation, and poor little Sam is like the poor person at the bottom, and that simply isn't true. The fact that you found more money than you thought you had each month, and it wasn't an insignificant amount of money. It was something that you can. That amount of money is enough to build dreams from. You can do whatever you want now. Each month, you've got that pot of money. Now you know you've got it, and you're conscious of it.
Yeah.
It won't just disappear into the ether of banking and never to be seen again. You'll probably make more conscious choices because you know it's there, and that in turn will make you feel more abundant.
Yeah, it will. Yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah, and I made that small investment as well. I texted you about that, didn't I?
You did, yeah.
It was just a £10 investment in like a startup company that I believe in. And you might lose that £10 or you might not, but this is definitely like Remitsetti's fault. This of like he's just like make investments, put money away, and do sort of much cleverer things with your money. So I was really proud of myself. I felt really rich when I made that £10 investment.
Well, you will do because you've got an investment, and most people haven't.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to keep doing more things like that and keep following this plan. And if anyone is thinking about doing stuff like that, it's so easy to do. Like the conscious spending plan is like 5 boxes on a spreadsheet. It's the mental and emotional part of it that'll be harder than the actual doing of it. So yeah, have a look at it, check it out, and work on your money blocks. Is there any other resources that you'd recommend for working on your money blocks, Louise?
I think what did I say before?
The Denise
Get
stuff.
rich, yeah, get rich, lucky bitch. That's quite good for working on your money blocks.
Yeah.
I'm finding with books at the moment, there's a lot of books about working on your money blocks, and there's a lot of books about sorting out your finances, but there's very few books that put the two together, really, and give you this is where I'm going to come in, give you a plan of how to sort out your finances, get that foundation for a good financial, a good financial starting point, and then to work on your money blocks as well. So watch this space. I might be recommending my own book at some point. But yeah, Denise Duffield Thomas, definitely. And obviously I must listen to that now. You've really inspired me to watch that Netflix. I've got it on. When you start watching it, and you my list. I've got it in there, but I've not watched it yet. But yeah, I might do. I might watch that. I can't think of any other books without going in the other room. So my bookcase is in the other room. There's a book called Fuck You Chaos by Monica somebody that touches on money and does a little bit of money blocks. It's a very, I don't want to say generic book because it's a really good book, but it's about like uncluttering your entire life. So it only touches on money a little bit. That was quite useful. Is Do Less by Kate Northrup? I've not read all of it yet, but I'm sure that touches on money blocks as
I
well.
think it
So,
does
yeah.
actually. Yeah, yeah. Well, we'll add these resources to the show notes so people can check it out. But yeah, money blocks. Let's keep working on them. And
Yeah.
those little, those books or like even Ramit's podcast, all little things that you could work on over the summer that aren't too intensive, just to at least start thinking about, even if the action feels too much right now, which it can do. I mean, gosh, I've been reading about money blocks for the last 2 years and not been able to get through some of these big ones. So if it feels too much to take action, just start listening to some stuff and reading some stuff until you're ready and go from there.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes then life takes over. So I wasn't, I didn't think I had that many money blocks and I didn't intend on working on them this month, but a series of events made me do that. And luckily I did it right before I really needed that in my head, because of the week that I've had. So yeah, definitely just start listening to stuff and maybe you'll just think about things differently. I think in all reading and podcasts, there's just key things that you pick up that it resonates and you kind of go with. But the other thing I meant to say was this is breaking news. Once you've done, so if we use you, Sam, as a starting point of what you've done this week, so you're changing the way you're thinking about money, you've got pots of money, that you can swap money around if you need to and take from one pot and put in another. But with the, let's call it disposable income that you found that's on top of your disposable income because last month you thought you had disposable income, but this month it's more, maybe you start setting some actual goals for what you want to do long term. Like what could that do? What could that money do for you that would change your life and move it into a direction that you want it to go? So this is something that I've been doing all year. And I sat and went through my finances a month ago with an absolute fine tooth comb because I had some big goals I wanted to hit. And as of the 4th of September, I'm going part time at work.
Yeah.
I know. I get to spend more time with my child because it's her last year in primary school. She's not going to be around as in wanting me spending time with her, forever. A couple more years and she'll be embarrassed by me, I'm sure. So yeah, I was like, I need to do this now. And I've just again moved a bit of money around, gone, well, okay. For example, I've got a cleaner. Really sorry, Carolyn, you're gonna have to go, but I'm going to have to get rid of my cleaner. There's money towards it. I've just got a pay rise that I've not actually got yet. Weird, but it'll come at some point. I've definitely got it. It's just not physically in my pay yet. That'll go towards the shortfall. So I'm doing it, and I'm not even worried about finances because I know I'll make it up somewhere. And again, that's happened. Probably somebody else might think, is this the time to go in part-time and you've just had a new roof and your cat's just had a new pins put in his leg and you need new doors and new windows? And I'm like, yeah, it absolutely is the right time. And I'll manage. It'll be fine.
Yeah, exactly, because it's what you want to do. It's in line with your goals.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And that's life-changing for me. To be around more Darla is absolutely life-changing. So, so when you've built these foundations, really start thinking, and this is an invitation to you, Sam, start thinking about what do you want to do? And it could be that you want to spend, more time doing fun stuff with the kids and you've got money for that now, or it could be that you've got some goals that are a bit more for you or businessy, or you want a holiday home. You've got capacity now. You've got the resources to do that. So maybe start thinking about, maybe enjoy it for a while, that financial freedom, but then don't enjoy it to the point that it becomes the norm and you have more money to spend on things. I don't know, maybe think about some goals that you want that would be really life-changing for you, because you can work towards them and still have this abundance and still have your pots going and be able to do the good stuff as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll keep working on them and I'll keep you posted.
Excellent.
That was Money Blocks. Thank you for that. And next episode, we're going to be talking about summer holidays and keeping your vibe high and looking after yourself and still working on stuff as much as you can in the midst of the summer holidays. We'll be knee deep into it by then, won't we?
We will be, yeah. So it'll all be about enjoying time with your children and not just wishing that September would be coming around a little bit quicker. Try to enjoy that time, and maybe some things like, put some things on hold so that you're not overwhelmed by life. We'll get you sorted for the summer, and we will take some tips from that ourselves, won't we?
Absolutely.
With these kids.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, see you then.
Bye.
Bye. You've been listening to the Manifestation Pod with me, Sam Fillingham, and Louise Marshall. Please follow, subscribe, and rate our pod. Share with friends to support two ordinary mums living extraordinary lives.